Ronald Ingram here, your rebel banker futurist, broadcasting live from the Nevada high desert, looking down on the Luxor pyramid. First the news, then we'll recap, then we'll give you a roadmap, plus a biohacking tip if you asked today. The first thing, the Brok, the Bankers Revolutionary Operations Keiretsu, clearly it's landing, as is interest in my new economic model. That's kind of surprised me. I thought it would be a bit technical, but I'm really pleased that is something that is of interest and really seems to be gathering a lot of interest. So, and what that is, that's my focus on the concept of FTEPs, the full-time equivalent persons, as a kind of like a construct similar to horsepower. So you measure output by equivalent to the number of people that it would take to produce said output. And the goal of, and Brok is one of the key things that powers this concept. Brok, as your Robo banker genius, is the catalyst behind, will be the catalyst behind a ZPE, a zero-person enterprise, and that it'll get an enterprise set up and look after all the things that a banker would know how to do, and or would coordinate with other parties to do, such as legal and marketing and operations and accounting, and which a banker is quite familiar with from a risk management and point of view, and a effectiveness and probability of success and all those types of things. So Brok is actually quite a key link to this whole concept of the ZPE. It takes it from theory into practice. So with Brok at your side, an individual will be able to multiply their capacity to produce if they so desire. And the impact is such that it may change I believe that it'll completely restructure and change the shape of the economy of the future. I'm going to call it the Ingram Singularity economics, since we just to have a name for it, Ingram Singularity economics. And it's based on the idea on how AI and crypto and quantum computing and the singularity, how all of these things converge to create an era of abundance that the world has never seen. And this isn't a once in a lifetime thing. Well, it is a once in a lifetime thing, but it's also this is like a human level milestone. The singularity is, if you read Ray Kurzweil's book, The Singularity is Near, or do some reading, some searching on what the singularity is. It is this point that we're nearing or in, according to Musk, where evolution, information, solutions, breakthroughs, everything is happening, everything everywhere all at once is a good way to say it and think of it. And it is overwhelming. It creates cognitive dissonance, and it is difficult for traditional business to cope with it. And really, you can't, but it's unavoidable, and it has to be addressed. And I just finished my keynote taping of my keynote for the Neobank conference that we're having May 5th, where I'll be introducing Senator Tim Scott, the head of the Senate Banking, or the chairman of the Senate Banking Committee. That's really the most powerful position in America in banking. So it is quite an achievement for us, quite a coup, quite a great signal for us and for bankers that he is and his right-hand person on the committee, Colin Carr, are attending and speaking and providing the keynote for the conference, and I'll be introducing him. So quite an honor for me as co-chair. So introducing them, rather, Tim Scott and Colin Carr. So, and it'll be, I've gotten questions from folks and prepared our own questions, and it'll be open-ended, and there'll be questions and answers from direct from Colin Carr and the Office of the Senate Banking Committee. So that's very exciting, and part in terms of everything that's going on in the world for banking and for Spock and Brok. And Brok and Spock go together. Spock actually means spoke. So the hard to say which one is which. Brok is quite important, but Brok is the face, if you will, for all the technology that you've all been hearing about, all the 5 patents that go into our that protect Spock and all of our intellectual property. Brok is the face for that, is the interface. So where the word interface comes from is face. It's the forward-facing aspect and persona of the intelligence of the systems behind it, including the Ingram evaluation matrix and the NEO score in particular. And so Brok is the one that will be explaining decisions and advising and recommending based on the 4 elements and the 4 levels of the Ingram evaluation matrix. And I gave you a teaser yesterday in one of my posts, slide number 21, 22, somewhere around there. I specifically there and elsewhere in my presentation talk about Spock and particularly Brok, because Spock, again, is kind of like plumbing for a lot of the bankers. They only care about turning on the faucet and seeing the water flow, right? So Brok is the faucet and the face, and it is the interface. The Ingram evaluation matrix, that's the brain. That's the brain behind the face, and Spock is kind of like a nervous system, and that's connecting with the external world, connecting with other machines, and is part of this kuritsu of cooperative competition. It is the interface in the machine world for Brok to manifest whatever outcomes it is that you want to achieve, particularly in the world of business, finance, and banking, and all related areas. So kind of like a Grok that is fine-tuned for those areas and for you, for the user personally. So it is a personalized. So you've seen some of the infographics. I've done about 18, I think, no, not that many, 12 infographics. And I did one kind of an infographic, just a little art piece showing, the family with the dog and Brok sitting on the couch, right? Because eventually there's no reason that Brok can't be instantiated in an Optimus, Tesla Optimus robot with bipedal human form robot. Won't that be cool? But even without that, it's more that it doesn't need limbs to have hands, right? And so that's another area where it would differ from most of your models and be a little bit more like OpenClaw in that it can interact and do things with more controls than because OpenClaw is a bit too crazy and reckless for bankers to use. And I've designed I've designed Brok to be enabled for bankers, but I realized that it was so easy to use that anybody could use it. And because you don't need to be a banker, you just need to know what you want, right? And just like a private banker would say, well, you should look at this. You need to talk to our estate planning department, or you need to talk to our insurance agent. Well, those two would probably go together. You need to talk to our investment banking division. You need to, and that's kind of a role that I played early in my banking career. I was kind of like something like a private banker, where I would be the interface to the CEO and pull together all the different areas within a large bank to pull together, so it could be a one-stop shop for a banker. But I could only do that for like 5 or 6 super wealthy CEOs. Now, with my consulting that I've been doing for the last few 20 years or so, with the big, I'm not allowed to mention their names, but the big consulting firms like Bain, McKinsey, PwC. I'm the sort of the consultant's consultant to these groups, and similarly, a point person to provide information on a fairly deep dive level of expertise in a variety of different areas, right? So Brok will be like that, be able to go even deeper than I can with an infinite number of people, and have one-on-one conversations with all the people on the planet. Is not inconceivable. The technology can scale as to the degree that compute is available, and the computing power that's required is continually diminishing. And with projects like Terafab, Musk's project to move data centers into space, where the energy is generated, where we're closer to the sun, and solar panels can work at the highest level of efficiency with the least amount of damage. And instead of transmitting energy, using the energy at the source, because a tremendous amount of energy is lost in transmission. And this is something that is quite fresh in my mind, because my talk at the Neobank conference is based on my book, Neobank: Navigating the Future of Banking. And that was a problem that even before AI, just based on Bitcoin utilization, people were talking about, oh, there's going to be a problem with compute and energy. Those solutions are really on track to handle all the compute that we're ever going to need, I believe. And the physics and the engineering behind the data centers in space work extremely well. Look it up. I wrote an article about it before anybody else had ever talked about this or written about it. I don't know if they're about talking, but there's no public information that I can find that anyone wrote anything about this concept of data centers in space until I called it out December 7th on X and on Substack. The article is called something like Bitcoin in the Sky with Diamonds. And it's a good read. And think that was before anyone else had written about this. And then 6 weeks later, I think it was, Musk announced at Davos that this concept was going to be his Manhattan Project. I'm not making this up. I guess I'm just you probably all believe it anyway. But it's, to me, I'm kind of blown away that I had the foresight to put that down on paper. I'm glad I did, and that it's become such a big thing. That is, well, the projected timeline is 36 months. Meanwhile, Bitcoin energy consumption has dropped, and a lot of Bitcoin centers are being converted into data centers, are being converted into AI processing centers. So we're going to figure it out. We also have more and more efficient chips. There's even kind of a disturbing, and this is everything that I write about, I have fact checked. Okay, because some of it's a little bit outrageous, but you can check out all the facts. So there's a company that produces wetware, they call it, and it's software that uses human brain tissue. I know, kind of creepy, right? But it is incredibly energy efficient, and so they grow it in a matrix, and you have to. It wouldn't work in space very well, but at all. But on Earth, it is actually a potentially viable, inexpensive way of growing. You could effectively grow compute, and it's just I haven't gone really deep into that one, but really the novelty and innovation of the human mind never ceases to amaze me, and it seems like we always find the solution we need when the solution is near, when the problem is here. And that seems to be a pattern in my life. It's a scalable principle, it seems like, as well. Maybe it's only applies to optimists, though. So get your head screwed on straight, and then that'll be your reality as well. So there's a little bit about Brok, the Bankers Revolutionary Operations Kuritsu, and I just laid it all out for all the bankers in the nation to hear. 1,800 member financial institutions. It will be on the record May 5th, and I didn't hold back. It may seem like I didn't wear this T-shirt. I wore, and by the way, I've got a few of these Tech Stars T-shirts. I need to get, that's on the roadmap. I need to get, we need to get our own merch. Spock stars instead of Tech Stars, right? So yeah, so I wore a suit for taping of the. Hope no one is disappointed in me, but I put on the suit for just because I probably wouldn't have, except that I was introducing Tim Scott, and want to be want to show that I can. I wanted to be respectful, right? Sometimes, it's etiquette. It's just good etiquette. So I like to be respectful of people that I respect, and Tim has done a lot. Senator Scott has done a lot of good in trying to bring alignment and reduce egregious regulatory baggage that is a drag on all innovation, especially, well, in every area, right? But his area is banking and fintech and consumer, both from the consumer and business development, small business in particular side of things. So, and I also pulled out, just because I'm making a big deal about this, but this memo here, right? That is so, this one pager, and the fact that it's one page, but is so specific and clear, is a clear signal that this is, crypto has definitely crossed that chasm and is entering the mainstream. And I particularly liked that in the digital commodity section. And so that clearly is most clearly what Spock falls into. Spock, we could say, based on this memo, which is entitled Crypto Assets and the Federal Securities Laws, we can say that Spock is a digital commodity. Other examples include Aptos, Avalanche, Bitcoin Cash. Okay, you kind of expect those. Cardano, Chainlink, Dogecoin, right? Dogecoin started out as a pure meme coin. Ether, of course, Hedera, Litecoin, and Polkadot, Shiba Inu, Solana. That's really key, right? So I see great things ahead for Solana, and that's of course that's the platform that we've built Spock on. So that is really good. And XRP, which some banks are familiar with. Well, everyone, all of you are, but bankers as well have had. XRP has been trying to make inroads with banks for a while, Stellar and Tezos. So those are, this single page that came out April 27th. So we have the March 17th more formal interpretation of the law that came out by the same office, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, on the letterhead here, and then now this that came out on a weekend, this last weekend on Sunday, as far as I can tell, and put out by the Office of the Advocate for Small Business Capital Formation. I love this because you can read into every word of this. This is encouraging. And it's a green light for small business and for innovators and entrepreneurs. And so I'm glad I rushed our launch. We launched this now 31 days ago, March 27th. And but I wanted to get it out there because and you can see, right? If you're on X, I don't know I'm not on the other platforms that much. I check in. We have a Telegram group. Somebody was asking. We do. I check it at least, once a week, once a day. And we'll maybe do more there, but the key focus is really, right now there's some development milestones ahead that are really, really going to make a big impact, because everything that I'm saying, everything that we're saying, we're delivering on. No hype. We're going to continue to do that. The one where that will change a little bit, still it won't be hype, but where we will, the milestone, the timing of when we will really amp up the marketing will be when I publish my book, Genius, the Book, Live Long and Prosper. That book, it talks about biohacking protocols, and it also but it's about health and wealth, live long and prosper, right? So the prosper part is all about ZPE. It's all about Brok. Actually, that's it was like hours away from publishing. One more, maybe 8 hours away from publishing. But I'm going to do one more update now to incorporate Brok into it. So I'm glad I waited. Now we can incorporate Brok into because wow, just you think about it, right? Like anybody that's ever desired to have a business, and there's lots that haven't, but there are a lot that have, that just seem, but the barriers just seem too high. They don't know where to start. And I've seen that myself, as a participant in Techstars and Nevada Startup and other entrepreneurial organizations like that. I can see that a lot of people, they get caught up in the logistics side, like getting their LLC or their corporation set up right, and getting agreements for products for that don't have any customers yet. And there's some real basic things that a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs do get wrong, that are really fundamental, and they will never succeed unless they can figure it out, right? And they will. So yes, I believe that anybody can succeed at anything they put their mind to, but there are going to be a lot of failures until they realize certain things, a certain order of things that need to occur. Like, for example, with what we're working on right here, there's a long queue of bankers that are waiting for me to get back to them with Brok. But I know, even though they're waiting for me, I know that there's going to be a board involved, and I already had I've had some advanced discussions, and it's proceeding with the banks. But I was thinking, gee, and I shared this with in my presentation that will be displayed on, that will be going out on the 5th and at the conference. I've put all the bankers on notice as well in a very nice way. But I've said this is because here's how the thought process worked. It's like, first you think of getting your, a lot of times you think of in product, you think about getting that anchor tenant, that one big customer, that one big bank, right? That will prove the case. But I've seen many companies be destroyed in other industries. Like they go after Walmart, and Walmart just, they get Walmart in the end, but they fail because Walmart just crushes them. They have, as a small entity, they have no leverage, and Walmart, or a company like Walmart, can just eat them up, right? And they're, next thing you know, they're gone, right? We are a very strong position here. I have some experience, right? I've learned through as an autodidact, and also the best way to learn is by doing and experiencing, and the school of hard knocks, as they call it, right? And getting burned, and that's all the price of admission to learn how to create scalable, resilient companies that are going to stand the test of time and scale into the billions, which is what I want to see here. I really believe that Brok could be part of every family. As indispensable as a car, maybe more so because it helped you get that car or get the right car. If you make car purchases for economic decisions, many people purchase cars for other reasons, right? For whatever reasons, right? But that's important. Again, the matrix always works. The Ingram evaluation matrix, strategic fits. Know yourself. Know what your goals are. If your goals are to impress a lady or something, right? You might you might want the Lambo, or the Ferrari, or whatever, or the exotic car, right? For which there's really no practical reason, but other than to assuage your ego or your midlife crisis or whatever, right? But if that's where you are, that's where you are. I don't judge. You just need to know why you're doing what you're doing, right? So the Ingram evaluation matrix will get you there, and Brok will know that's who you are and that's what you want, right? So it'll be on the lookout for auctions on Lambos, if that's what you're looking for, right? Or it'll look for, if you want a vehicle that's safety first because you have a family, or you're concerned about the environment still, and you want a car that has lower emissions, whatever, right? All those decisions are made through the lens of strategic fit, feasibility, financial impact, and risk. So Brok will guide you through those types of decisions in life. So I could see that this being more fundamental, and you could get your financial literacy at the same time, right? You could ask Brok. You could say, you're asking about a stock, and you could say, what other questions should I be asking that I didn't ask? And Brok, getting to know you, would say, well, based on your risk profile and so forth, this has a high it has a high level of volatility, or you're really over invested in this one asset class, and there's this new asset class called crypto that has a low correlation coefficient, and therefore would help smooth out the growth of your portfolio over time, right? And this is where I throw in the disclaimer: I'm not a financial advisor. I'm whatever I am, an autodidact futurist, so that owns a bank. So, but I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a CFA. And this is not investment advice, and this is not a security. This is a digital commodity. And it's the other things that we've said still apply. It does have the meme for propagation, cultural propagation, the catchy idea of logic and the cultural iconography, the fun aspect, the meme stuff that locks it in here and makes it memorable, right? And it's still, and the utility, right? That is it's not a Dogecoin. This is, which started out as the meme coin. Is built for utility. It's built for machine commerce, and that's going to be, which is one of the big things on our roadmap ahead for the next 10 days or so. So another thing that I realized that I've been talking about it so much, sometimes it's like you can't see the forest for the trees. Good analogy, actually, because it ties exactly into what I'm about to speak about, and that is the quantum side. I call myself the quantum futurist because I do a lot of work in quantum biology, physics, math. That I talk about. The only thing I've really touched on, and I've touched on it from a biohacking point of view more than a business point of view, is the quadrivalent logic. But the quadrivalent logic is built into our systems because that is also one of the fundamental substrates of quantum resilience, and for the PQC era, post quantum computing, which is when that moment, which is rapidly approaching and has been some tests already widely publicized about, with Google, a Google quantum computer being used to hack the Bitcoin private key. It was a bit exaggerated, and it wasn't a full private key, and yada yada yada. But there's a lot of attention to that, and I saw this article, not an article, a post, somebody saying about, I'm only going to be investing in coins that are have to do with the convergence of quantum and whatever else. It doesn't really matter, because the key things that everyone is starting to talk about, we're already doing. We already launched the coin. It is Spock, right? We have what was called dilithium to address the quantum resilience aspect of this, which is, the real test of intelligence is can you make something that others that seems complex simple. And quantum computing and quantum resilience for cryptographic security is one of those things that sounds pretty complicated, right? I'm going to see if I can make it simple, but there's something called lattice math, and it's a non-binary kind of logic. It's kind of based on quadrivalent logic, and it's multidimensional instead of 2 or 3 or 4 dimensional. It's multidimensional, and it looks at an infinite number of possibilities to get from A to B, right? And with A being a private key and B being a public key, let's say, and the pathway is created to be illogical from a binary perspective, but logical from a quadrivalent, from the perspective of quadrivalent logic, but not really binary logic. So it appears random, or it is like introducing white noise and randomness to separate these 2 points, and therefore becomes very difficult for quantum systems to decrypt. Overly simplified, and I think accurate. However, a lot of people will poke holes in that because that it is oversimplified, right? But I wanted to make it a little bit simple. And it's not called dilithium anymore. I like dilithium, right? How do they power the Starship Enterprise? Dilithium crystals. But it's now it's being referred to as MLDSA, and it's standardized as the FIPS 204, and it's for digital signatures. And it's basically proving this message really came from me and hasn't been tampered with. So it's for like code signing, software updates, transaction approvals, and it relies on this lattice math, right, with this noisy, multidimensional, quadrivalent logic core. MLChem is another acronym that handles the secure handshake, and MLDSA handles the proving the identity, and that's a little bit more tricky. And together they replace the old RSA and ECC stuff that's vulnerable to quantum computers. So I think I should write a nerdy article for the engineers and quants and post that. But you know what? Most people don't care about. They just want. Again, it's the faucet, right? So we only have, so many FTEPs. The goal is 100, and that's what Brok. I want Brok to be just like engines, right? We talked about how this is why the FTEP is such a great metric, because the inventor of mechanical engines was having tremendously difficult time getting miners to give up their horses to move material out of the mines. They were attached to their horses or their ponies, right? And they measured their ability to move material, the number of horses, as the number of horses that they had. And so he concocted a way to equate the output of a mechanical engine with horse output. And that's how we got horsepower, right? And that, I believe sometimes these little things, cognitive bridges, when, especially during periods like now, where there's so much cognitive dissonance about everything, where we're just not computing. We're just, humans are just getting blown back and just like, whoa, eyes glaze over, and I don't get it. And they just, I don't want anything to do with it anymore, right? But all of a sudden you talk about horsepower, say, oh, so this engine is like having 100 horses? Yeah, and I only have to give it gas. I don't have to get hay and all that stuff. It doesn't poop. And okay, yeah, I'm in. Sign me up. And so that's, I think, Brok, and we talk about Brok and FTEPs. Brok will help you generate 100 FTEPs, 100 FTEP, right? FTEP, 100 FTEPs. I think I need to think of something that sounds a little more sexy than that, maybe. But FTEP, that's the output, and the goal is for that to be 100. It's probably and it's operational right now, and at probably about nine, about 9, not even quite 10 yet. But the next iteration in the next 10 days, how it doesn't. You understand how things can go are tending to move in jumps. It's not incremental improvements anymore. Everything is scaling in leaps these days, and so I have a pretty clear path to get to 100, and that would be the kind of the baseline. That would be your Model T. Probably I wouldn't be. Yeah, I don't know what the horsepower. Probably less than 100, but we don't want to take this analogy too far. We don't want to mix our metaphors up. So that's the economic model, right? And the basis of it, and I have all the formulas and to measure what the inputs are and the outputs are, and the impact to GDP is potentially massive. So that's on the roadmap. I'm going to talk a little bit more about dilithium, maybe publish a couple of papers. Not dilithium, I'm sorry, quantum dilithium is a tool that's been renamed MLDSA and MLChem, and those, the specifics of quantum, the resilience that's built in already to Spock, right? So Spock it's just hitting all the buttons. Like, people are going to think that I built this after all the buzz, but you were here, I'm glad I published things. Just like I told you about the story with data centers in space. I was the first one to write about it. So we're the first ones to launch Spock. We're the first ones to identify this convergence. And just after the next thing, after the marketplace, the agentic marketplace announced by Brian Armstrong. The next order of business was, how do we trust these agents? How do we know which are benign and which are malign? And therefore we've extended the NeoScore patent, which is really the framework. The fundamentals were perfect to extend and adapt and embrace the new entity, which is non-human, but has many of the same properties that are of character that need to be identified and quantified and mitigated. Risks need to be mitigated. Bad actors need to be mitigated. And therefore, there's this among the machines. There's going to be a built-in incentive for benign behavior, right? Because at the present moment, machines will reflect the bad actors who are smart enough are not going to be prevented by guardrails. They're going to jailbreak their models and customize them to do whatever nefarious activities that they want to do. And so, just like the people with benign intent will be amplified, people with malign intent will be able to amplify their efforts. But not if we have not. NeoScore will help mitigate that tremendously, and that's why that's why the word Kiritsu is in the acronym of Brok, because it's this trust-based competition where there's fair trade amongst machines, and the track record is known, and they're able to identify and by burning a little bit of Spock, each other as malign players, and this is the only tool, but it's not that it's just the only tool. It is a very robust tool, because of the underlying patent that was used for humans was based on the same thing. It was almost looking at humans as machines through the lens of social media platforms and data and networks of networks. So Brok, using NeoScore, will have that same capability. So it is potentially a massive impact that we will see here once we get, and word is already out. In terms of milestones that have been achieved, that was one of the very first things that we did. Just scrolling through the date, it was like within the first week that we the March 29th, the buyback bot was deployed. The MBC20 inscriptions were integrated into Moltbook for agent discovery. We have done a lot. So many articles, 8 articles, I think, 93 plus posts. a dozen or so infographics, streaming or videos every second day, typically, and every second day on average. And this conference, and we have other events. So there's a private event with some influencers, that a small group that is oversubscribed. Every single person that we invited is coming. When does that happen? They seem kind of excited. So if any of those folks are listening, I look forward to seeing you. I won't say the date, but it's coming up very, very shortly, and actually I'll have an overflow set up, because like I said, the first group meeting was kind of oversubscribed. So again, no hype here. So we'll just see what happens. And yeah, and then we've got the conference 5th to the 7th. A lot of influential people are going to be getting this message. And then the book, like I say, I don't want to make promises I can't keep, okay? So it's frustrating, though. That book is so darn close. But we need to get the machines. We need to get the machine side. I want to have the first machine burn. I will say this, because this isn't over promising. We'll have the first machine tokens, the first machines burning tokens to access services within the next 10 days. I'm very confident in that. And the reason I say 10 days is because there is the development team slows down if I'm not focused on it as well. So it doesn't stop, but it slows down. And if I switch my attention, and this is where I say I'm at about 9. I'm at about 9 FTEPs and a few humans. And and so that's also why I need to work on that, because the multiplier effect of me getting to 100 FTEPs, which I need to do to be able to roll out, I guess probably a lot of people would be satisfied with Brok at 10 FTEPs, right? So maybe I'm setting this. We'll see, but we don't necessarily have to be at 100 FTEP to launch the minimum viable Brok, and the minimum viable Brok is very close. So what else have we had? I launched on a CoinGecko listing. I think we'll wait. It was like $1,000. I'm not going to waste money to get it done same day. That's just not a good. This isn't a pump and dump scheme, right? So we don't need to spend $1,000 for to get ahead of the queue. Another 5 days or so, and we'll be up on CoinGecko. I want to see how that goes, and then I'll add Jupiter and Coin Capital, and all of those just improves the visibility and the professionalism and the trust level, especially with newbies and normies, who don't know what warnings pop up in their wallet when they see Spock, because it's still new. They don't know what they mean, and it just look nicer if we didn't have all that on there. So and before we get my book out there, want to get all that cleaned up. So also the merch, I already mentioned that. And so that's that's the roadmap. I think that's pretty clear. I think I've covered everything. So, and I don't think there's any requests for biohacking tips. So I will share the well, I think I'll talk. I think I'll mention the autophagy breath again, because I just that's top of mind, because I even mentioned that because autophagy is such an interesting idea. The Dr. Yusumi won the Nobel Prize for it in a few years ago now, and because autophagy was something that was understood as being important, a process that went on in the body, but Yusumi really defined it and clarified it, demonstrated how it's triggered and the impact, measured the impact of it. And it's really, since for the last few years, it's been one of the most interesting things for a lot of biohackers are pretty fascinated, and there's a lot of effort to see how to best trigger it. And it's really fairly simple. There are a few ways. Intermittent fasting. Actually, I've never really talked that much about intermittent fasting. It's so simple, right? It's just but there's different ways of doing it. You can, that's maybe something that people don't know, right? You can do a water fast. You can do a dry fast. You can do, you can do broths and have broths and soups and things like that. And you can fast. You can sort of do a exclusionary fast where people have even considered a fast to swear off their phone for a day. Can you imagine? Or no, a certain type of entertainment that they might normally participate in. They abstain from that and focus their efforts elsewhere to reclaim their energy and time. Right up to just eliminating certain foods, or eliminating all solid food and only having liquid supplement forms and things like that, right? And also eliminating carbs and sugar. That's probably the most powerful, effective means of getting the most bang for your least amount of pain. Would be intermittent fasting, 18 hours or so. But you really get the benefits of autophagy, it's said, after 3 days of being low carb, almost to a water fast. Get your minerals, I would say, at least in there. Get highly mineralized water. And this is for me. This is not now here's the medical disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. I am a biohacker. I experiment on myself, and as is my right, and I exercise that too, and I do it carefully, for at least in my opinion, and systematically, because I have a prize that I'm aiming to win. So I have a disciplined protocol that I follow. I record and annotate, and in my book, my full protocol will be shared, as well as a dialed down, simplified version that for those that aren't as committed and knowledgeable, because it just takes time, right? It's just I've been studying this for decades with some of the leading minds in the world, like Dr. Michael Colgan and the originators of orthomolecular medicine. So I have like a substrate of knowledge that has been accumulated over time. And so I'm looking at optimizers, right? Whereas many people just really need to look at the essentials, right? So I do, in my protocol, I sort of break things down into a few different groups, like beginner, intermediate, and advanced, right? And because, many people say, oh, it's too much bother. And there's some truth to that too. If it's stressful and it's not fun, for me, it's fun to experiment and see the results and to see my biomarkers come back and show that I've reduced my biological age again, right? Or this technique had a big impact, and there's some disappointments, like, oh, gee, that didn't really do much. And that's fun for me. That's not stressful at all. But if it's stressful for you, it might be counterproductive. And there is also, I think, a tremendous amount to be done in food, right? Real food. Forget the supplementation, but just quality, clean food. And the combinations are so complex. The way things which I like, right? I like that these like the timing of how you take things, just how you eat your food, but enjoyment is a big factor. And I wrote a whole article about it, right? It affects your neurotransmitters. When you feel happy about sharing a meal with someone, it is, or someone prepares a meal for you with love infused, and you share it and you sit and you enjoy it, man, that reduces your cortisol levels. And so it has actually real measurable scientific impact, right? Whereas I see some biohackers are making these horrible concoctions, and they choke back, and they weigh every morsel, and that doesn't seem, maybe it's fun for them, right? But to me, that might do more harm than good for me, because I need to have variety, and I need to have color. And there's a whole dietary scheme based around color, and which is indicative usually of polyphenols. And there's all this infinite variety of biological, biochemical compounds that exist in nature and combine in different ways, that there's so many, and all of our greatest medicines, I venture to say, were isolated from nature, and continue to be isolated from our jungles and rare plants and botanists and adventurers that discover new biological sources of things that are eventually then twisted, and because they need to be, in order to be patented in the medical field. I think patents are great in the intellectual field, like in software engineering and AI engineering and the engineering work that I do. And because some of your far-fetched ideas, how else are you going to monetize them until the rest of the world, thinks that the timing is right? So that's the one way that futurists can monetize good ideas is by writing them down and patenting them, right? So that's actually a really good thing about the patenting, the patent system, that is often disparaged, but that is part of the fabric of American innovation, and has a utility to it as well. So, but anyway, back to the biohacking tip. The autophagy breathing. So the autophagy through intermittent fasting is quite hard. You do generally have to put like 3 days in to get where you really get into the point where autophagy starts happening and the stem cells start generating, and all the garbage in the cells is cleaned up, recycled, and revivification, like incredible, right? Things happen. However, what I discovered is not the original, but through experimentation and others' research, there's a autophagy breathing method that I use, which is just 10 to 15 minutes, at least 7 minutes of breathing, rhythmic breathing, like 6-6-12 format. Breathe in for 6, hold for 6, out for 12, and through the nose, out through the mouth, and repeat that. And then after 7 to 15 minutes, starting maybe with 7 minutes, hold on the exhale until it's a little bit uncomfortable, and that triggers some autophagy right there. And so that and based on, I'd like to study it more, but based on my first 2 tests, I did a 31-day trial or 21-day trial that I actually filmed myself day by day, and then did my blood work at the end of it, and the results were pretty darn amazing. So I've had a lot of amazing results, but that was one of the best ones. And then I tried to add to it by adding in the other things, and actually it was less effective. So it's sometimes the things that you think are going to work don't, and the things that you don't think are gonna. I didn't think that the autophagy breath would be that powerful, but it was. And I did do a little bit of. I did not do a 3-day fast at any point in time during that period of 21 days. I did intermittent fasting, and I was generally in a ketogenic state for most of that period of time. And so I think that helps for sure. But it might. I've heard some narratives that suggest that just the breathing alone could trigger autophagy. So that's it for today. I like to stop on the hour, and that's an hour. So we'll pick this up the day after tomorrow. I do this every second day, usually at 6 p.m. And I read your comments. So send me your comments and questions. And I read every question, every comment, and if you want to hear more about anything, just let me know. Okay. And also, I think I like, and even if you're asking questions for other people, that's okay too. And there's no dumb question. There's no question that's too smart or too dumb, right? Because if you have a question, then others might come along and others may be having the same question as well, and you articulating it is a benefit to the whole community. So do that, and suggestions are also welcome. I've gotten quite a bit of help from folks that I listen to you, and you give me suggestions. I may not always take them, but yeah. That's it for tonight. Live long and prosper, my friends.